Welcome back to Infinitia Verity, where we unravel the most fascinating historical stories you've never heard. Today, we're diving into the secret alliances that led to one of the most devastating conflicts in human history, World War I. From backroom diplomatic deals to covert military pacts, we'll explore how a series of secret agreements set the stage for a war that engulfed the world. World War I didn't just happen overnight, it was the result of years of intricate diplomacy and secret alliances between the major powers of Europe. These alliances were designed to maintain the balance of power and prevent war, but ironically they ended up doing the exact opposite. So how did these secret treaties and agreements turn Europe into a ticking time bomb? Let's start by looking at the earliest of these alliances and how they shaped the road to war. Segment 2. The Three Emperors League from 1873 to 1887. The first major alliance that set the stage for World War I was the Three Emperors League, established in 1873. This secretive agreement between Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Russia was orchestrated by German Chancellor Otto von Bismarck, whose primary goal was to isolate France and keep it from forming alliances that could threaten Germany. The idea behind the League was simple. By aligning the interests of the three monarchies, the balance of power in Europe would remain stable. However, this alliance was short-lived. Growing tensions between Austria-Hungary and Russia over control of the Balkans, a region where both powers had imperial ambitions, caused the League to falter. The two empires couldn't agree on how to manage the increasingly volatile situation in the Balkans, leading to the eventual dissolution of the alliance in 1887. Interesting fact. Bismarck, a master of realpolitik, famously remarked that the Balkans were not worth the bones of a single Pomeranian grenadier, recognizing that the region's instability could easily drag Europe into a wider conflict. He was right, as it turned out. While the Three Emperors League ultimately failed, Bismarck continued to use diplomatic skill to keep Germany at the center of European affairs, setting the stage for more complex alliances. Segment 3. The Dual Alliance of 1879 and the Triple Alliance of 1882. After the collapse of the Three Emperors League, Bismarck sought a new ally to counter the growing threat from France. In 1879, he forged the Dual Alliance between Germany and Austria-Hungary. This defensive pact stipulated that if either nation were attacked by Russia, the other would come to its aid. This move was a masterstroke of Bismarckian diplomacy, as it both strengthened ties with Austria-Hungary and kept Russia at bay. In 1882, Italy joined the Dual Alliance, creating the Triple Alliance. Italy, feeling isolated and threatened by French expansion in North Africa, saw the alliance as a way to safeguard its position in Europe. The Triple Alliance was a defensive agreement, promising that if one of the member states was attacked, the others would come to its defense. Interesting fact. Although Italy was part of the Triple Alliance, it had no real animosity towards either France or Russia, and its participation in the alliance was largely driven by a desire for security and colonial ambitions. The Triple Alliance would play a key role in the lead-up to World War I, as it tied the fates of Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy together. However, when war eventually broke out in 1914, Italy declared itself neutral, only to later join the Allies. Segment 4. The Franco-Russian Alliance of 1894. While Germany and Austria-Hungary solidified their relationship, France was left isolated. Since its defeat in the Franco-Prussian War of 1870–71, France had been wary of Germany's growing power. The collapse of the Reinsurance Treaty between Germany and Russia in 1890 opened the door for a new Franco-Russian alliance. In 1894, France and Russia signed a secret military agreement, the Franco-Russian Alliance. This pact was designed to counter the growing power of the Triple Alliance and prevent Germany from dominating Europe. The agreement stated that if either France or Russia was attacked by Germany or its allies, the other would come to its aid. With this alliance in place, France had finally broken its isolation. Interesting fact. The Franco-Russian Alliance was one of the earliest examples of a military agreement designed to counterbalance another alliance. It marked the beginning of the arms race in Europe, as both sides prepared for a potential conflict. The alliance was made even more significant because of the sheer size and strength of Russia's army, which added a significant deterrent to any German plans for expansion. Segment 5. The Entente Cordiale in 1904 and the Anglo-Russian Entente in 1907. With the Franco-Russian Alliance in place, France sought to further isolate Germany by improving relations with Britain, a country that had historically been its rival. In 1904, France and Britain signed the Entente Cordiale, a series of agreements that settled long-standing colonial disputes and established a mutual understanding between the two powers. While not a formal military alliance, the Entente Cordiale marked a significant thaw in relations between two countries that had been enemies for centuries. 3 years later, in 1907, Britain signed a similar agreement with Russia, known as the Anglo-Russian Entente. This agreement resolved colonial disputes in Central Asia and Persia and, more importantly, completed the diplomatic isolation of Germany. With France, Britain, and Russia now loosely aligned, Europe was essentially divided into two opposing camps: the Triple Alliance, consisting of Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy, and the Triple Entente, comprising France, Russia, and Britain. Interesting fact 1. The Entente Cordiale was not a formal military alliance, but rather a series of diplomatic agreements aimed at improving relations between Britain and France. However, it paved the way for closer military cooperation in the event of a future conflict. Interesting fact 2. The signing of the Anglo-Russian Entente in 1907 marked the end of the so-called Great Game between Britain and Russia, a decades-long struggle for dominance in Central Asia. Segment 6. The Reinsurance Treaty from 1887 to 1890. The collapse of the Reinsurance Treaty in 1890 marked one of the most crucial diplomatic failures on Germany's part. With Bismarck out of the picture, Kaiser Wilhelm II, overconfident in Germany's rising military power, opted not to renew this secret agreement with Russia. The treaty had been crucial in ensuring peace between Germany and Russia, two potential adversaries, by promising neutrality in case of conflict. Without it, Russia, now feeling abandoned, sought out new allies in France. Interesting fact 1. When Wilhelm II allowed the Reinsurance Treaty to expire, his own foreign minister, Count Leo von Caprivi, warned that this move would push Russia into France's arms. His prediction came true with the signing of the Franco-Russian Alliance just a few years later in 1894. Interesting fact 2. Bismarck's original idea for the Reinsurance Treaty was that it would prevent a two-front war for Germany, a situation that would eventually come to pass during World War I. By not renewing it, Germany effectively opened the door to a future where it would be encircled by enemies on both its western and eastern fronts. Segment 7. The Impact of Balkan Nationalism and the Entanglement of Alliances. At the heart of the geopolitical tensions leading to World War I was the volatile situation in the Balkans. The decline of the Ottoman Empire left a power vacuum in the region, which Austria-Hungary and Russia both sought to fill. However, the Balkans were not just an arena for the great powers to compete. Nationalist movements among Serbs, Bosnians, Croats, and others were fighting for independence or expansion. This mix of imperial ambitions and nationalist fervor was a recipe for disaster. Austria-Hungary's annexation of Bosnia and Herzegovina in 1908 further strained its relationship with Serbia, which harbored ambitions of leading a South Slavic state. Russia, as the self-appointed protector of Slavic peoples, supported Serbia's aspirations, bringing it into direct conflict with Austria-Hungary. Interesting fact 1. The Balkan Wars from 1912 to 1913 heightened tensions as they shifted the balance of power in the region. Serbia emerged stronger, while Austria-Hungary, now nervous about the rise of a pan-Slavic movement, began to see Serbia as a major threat. Interesting fact 2. The situation in the Balkans was so precarious that it was often referred to as the powder keg of Europe. With a complex web of alliances connecting various European powers to these Balkan conflicts, it was only a matter of time before an incident in the region triggered a broader war. Segment 8. The Assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand in 1914. The event that sparked World War I was the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary on June 28, 1914. While visiting Sarajevo, the capital of Bosnia-Herzegovina, The Archduke and his wife were well killed by Gavrilo Princip, a Bosnian Serb nationalist and member of the secret society Black Hand. Princip and his co-conspirators were motivated by Serbian nationalism, aiming to unite all Slavs under a single nation, independent from Austria-Hungary. This assassination set off a rapid chain of events. Austria-Hungary, blaming Serbia for the attack, saw an opportunity to crush Serbian nationalism once and for all. However, knowing that Russia supported Serbia, Austria-Hungary sought assurances from Germany, its closest ally, before taking any military action. Kaiser Wilhelm II provided Austria-Hungary with what became known as the blank check, promising unconditional support in the event of war with Serbia. Interesting fact, the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand is often viewed as the catalyst for World War I, but the tensions leading to the conflict had been building for decades through various secret alliances and rivalries. Another interesting fact, the Black Hand, responsible for the assassination, was a secret Serbian nationalist organization that wanted to create a greater Serbia. Its actions ironically contributed to a war that devastated the very region they sought to unite. Segment 9, Austria-Hungary's ultimatum to Serbia and the start of the war. With Germany's backing, Austria-Hungary issued an ultimatum to Serbia on July 23, 1914, with demands so severe that Serbia would be forced to refuse. The ultimatum included provisions like allowing Austrian officials to investigate the assassination within Serbia, something no sovereign nation could accept. On July 28, 1914, Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia when the ultimatum's terms were not fully met. Within days, the alliances that had been quietly forming over decades came into play. Russia mobilized in defense of Serbia, prompting Germany to declare war on Russia on August 1st. France, bound by its alliance with Russia, found itself at war with Germany on August 3rd. In response to Germany's violation of Belgian neutrality, Britain entered the war on August 4th. Thus, the complex system of alliances had transformed a regional conflict into a full-scale world war. Interesting fact 1. The terms of Austria-Hungary's ultimatum to Serbia were intentionally harsh. Many historians believe that Austria-Hungary did not actually want peace, but rather sought an excuse to go to war with Serbia to eliminate the threat of nationalism within its borders. Interesting fact 2. The quick escalation from a regional conflict between Austria-Hungary and Serbia to a world war highlights the dangers of entangled alliances. Once one nation acted, the others were pulled in due to their treaty obligations. Segment 10, Germany's Schlieffen Plan and Britain's entry into the war. Germany had long anticipated a two-front war with both France and Russia. In response, German military leaders developed the Schlieffen Plan, a strategy to quickly defeat France before turning to fight Russia. The plan called for invading France through Belgium, a neutral country, to avoid France's heavily fortified border. Germany believed that by swiftly defeating France, it could focus its efforts on the slower-to-mobilize Russia. However, when German forces invaded Belgium on August 4, 1914, Britain, which had signed a treaty guaranteeing Belgian neutrality in 1839, declared war on Germany. The Schlieffen Plan, intended to be Germany's quick solution to a two-front war, ultimately drew Britain into the conflict and set the stage for the prolonged stalemate of trench warfare. Interesting fact 1. The Schlieffen Plan was based on a series of assumptions, including that Belgium would offer little resistance and that Russia would be slow to mobilize. Both assumptions proved to be incorrect, contributing to Germany's early struggles in the war. Interesting fact 2. Britain's entry into the war turned what could have been a continental European conflict into a truly global war. Britain's vast empire meant that battles would be fought not only in Europe but also in Africa, the Middle East, and Asia. Segment 11. The Balkan Powder Keg Ignites, 1914. The Balkans, often referred to as the powder keg of Europe, had been a hotspot for conflict and tension throughout the 19th and early 20th centuries. The decline of the Ottoman Empire and the rise of nationalist movements created an environment ripe for war. Austria-Hungary's annexation of Bosnia in 1908 had already fueled tensions with Serbia, which sought to lead a united Slavic nation. Russia, sharing ethnic and religious ties with the Slavic peoples of the Balkans, backed Serbia, while Austria-Hungary sought to maintain its control over the region. When Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia in 1914, these long-standing tensions in the Balkans exploded, pulling in the major European powers through their various alliances. The complex web of treaties and agreements, initially designed to prevent conflict, had the opposite effect, as each nation felt obligated to defend its allies. Interesting fact 1. The Balkan Wars of 1912 to 1913, which saw Serbia and its allies fighting against the Ottoman Empire and Bulgaria, had already weakened Austria-Hungary's position in the region. Serbia's victories in these wars made it a growing threat to Austria-Hungary's influence. Interesting fact 2. Despite being called the Great War, World War I began as a regional conflict in the Balkans. It was the entangled alliances and mutual defense pacts that escalated it into a global war. Segment 12. Conclusion. The fragile peace shattered. The outbreak of World War I was the tragic result of decades of secret alliances, imperial ambitions, and nationalist movements. What began as an assassination in a Balkan city quickly spiraled into a global conflict, as the major powers of Europe were drawn into war by their treaty obligations. The alliances that were intended to maintain peace and balance power had, in the end, turned Europe into a powder keg, ready to explode. As we reflect on these secret alliances, it's important to recognize the role they played in shaping the course of history. The diplomatic agreements made in secret not only influenced the start of World War I, but also shaped the political landscape for years to come. By understanding how these alliances worked, we gain insight into the complexities of international relations and the delicate balance between peace and war. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the hidden history of World War I. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with others who are curious about the untold stories of history. We'll see you in the next episode of Infinitia Verity, where we uncover the fascinating truths behind history's greatest events.